Hi, my name is Tom Gagliano. I have a master's degree in social work, a CMAT certificate in drugs and alcohol. I'm a best-selling author and a keynote speaker. I'm also a recovering addict, and I was a bully as a kid. I'm not proud to say that, but I was hurting inside, and I wanted to hurt other people the way I was hurting inside. We live in a world where we see opiate addiction killing 5 people an hour. We have a porn problem. Statistically, most kids have viewed porn before the age of 12 years old. And my experience in overcoming my own shortcomings have told me that addiction's not the problem. It's the symptom. What's the problem? The problem lies in childhood messages. Everything begins in the home. Let me give you an example. I was watching a baseball game with my youngest son. He said, "Hey, Dad, how come the kids in the stand are rooting so hard for their favorite baseball player?" I said, "Well, those baseball players are the heroes." I was thinking about what I said. He came back to me and said, "Dad, they may be my hero someday, but you're always going to be my first hero." Wow, really positive. You know what? We are our children's first heroes, whether we want that responsibility or not. See, everything comes from childhood messages, verbal and nonverbal. They influence the intimacy we have or don't have, our parenting skills, the careers we choose, not just addictions, people pleasers, caretakers, codependency. Everything comes early on from childhood messages. Everything. Let me talk a little bit about egocentricity and tell you what that is and why it's so important. No matter what the diversity is, rich, poor, what religion, all children at a young age before 10 are the same. The world revolves around them. My son at 5 said, "Dad, what are you getting me for Father's Day?" World revolves around them. That's when their core beliefs are formed. Let me give you an example of my own life. My dad was an alcoholic. And if he didn't come home at a certain time, it meant he was going to come home drunk. It meant he was going to hurt someone, me, my mother, and I was a kid at the top of the stairs that was shaking. Today, I know the guy was an alcoholic. But at 8 years old, you know what I said? Something's wrong with me. He wouldn't be doing this if I was more lovable. Egocentricity, it's very important to understand that. Even parents at work all the time, if a child doesn't feel that their feelings are important, they'll feel that they're not important. It's very important to understand what egocentricity is. Child that feels this way becomes fragmented. They split into two. They show the world one part of themselves, a mask, but there's a true self inside that they're hiding. They dare not show how they really feel. And they start to isolate. Very toxic place to be. See, as they grow into adulthood, they develop a voice screaming for love and attention, but they look for it in the wrong places. See, they take actions that prohibit anybody getting close to them. This is how addiction starts. See, that void has to be filled, but not with people. So they bond with addiction. Maybe drinking, gambling, spending, pornography, eating, who knows? But it's not people. Or they act in with depression, isolation. Or they do both. See, in essence, they become emotional cripples. This is what addicts are, emotional cripples. Many of us sabotage intimacy because we're too afraid to let anybody really see our insides, that fragmentation. So about 15 years ago, I moved away from the world of business. And I had 2 goals. One was to help others who suffered as I had from negative childhood messages. So I started groups in my house and schools. What did I teach them? 2 things. I taught them how to give themselves the loving and positive messages that might have been denied to them in their own childhood. Because the most important relationship we all have is the one with ourselves, and how to give their partner those messages and their children those messages. I also built self-awareness. You have to look under those unswept corners of your life. It's so important. Because if you don't, you may stop one addiction, but you'll find another addiction unless you look at what the real problem is. It's kind of like switching seats in the Titanic. No matter what seat you're in, you're going down. And addiction is always going to be in control, always. That's why our cemetery is filled with addicts that thought they were in control of their addiction. My second goal was to give my children what I didn't have, a safe place, a place they could share their feelings. I had this opportunity years ago with my oldest son. We had to put our dog to sleep. My son was very close to this dog. He loved this dog. I went to his bedroom. I said, "How you doing?" He said, I'm doing okay, Dad." Well, I put his arms around my chest and his head on my shoulders. He started to cry. Within moments, his tears intensified, and so did his grip on me. I was giving my son a safe place, a place to cry in his father's arms, a place I never had as a kid, a place I was giving my son. You see, my children know they can make mistakes. Doesn't mean they are a mistake. They know they could fail at times. Doesn't mean they're a failure. These are the positive messages that they'll carry through their lives, able to process their feelings with their dad, regulating those feelings instead of acting them out in destructive ways. I want to share and conclude my biggest victory in life, and it didn't come from business, it didn't come from a board meeting, it came from a PTA meeting where this teacher with my youngest son said, "Mr. Gagliano, I want to talk to you for a minute." And right away I said, "Oh boy, what did my son do? He must have did something wrong." She said, "Mr. Gagliano, I want to tell you that I never saw a child love and respect their father as much as your son does you." I get a little emotional at this point because I've said this a million times in speeches. It still gets to me. She said, "What's your secret?" I have a 3- and 5-year-old, and I would love them to talk about me the way your son talks about you. What's your secret? This is what I bring when I speak, bringing those unconditional love messages to your children, to your partner, and mainly to yourself. If you'd like to learn more, please visit my website, theproblemwasme.com. I have speaking engagements on parenting and on addiction. I also have media reels. I thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me.